The village of Red Hill, nestled quietly among rolling hills and endless fields, had always been known for its strong sense of community and the shared love its residents had for animals. People here were not wealthy, but they were rich in compassion, and it was said that no creature, big or small, was ever left without care. The residents took it upon themselves to help any animal in need, and this became a deep-rooted part of their way of life. One such resident was a farmer named Jack, a hardworking man who spent his days toiling on his land, tending to his crops, and caring for his small herd of cattle. Jack had lived in the village his entire life, inheriting the family farm from his father and carrying on the traditions of the land. He was a man of few words, but he was known for his quiet acts of kindness. He believed that life was about doing what was right, no matter how small or large the action might be. One late afternoon, after an exhausting day in the fields, Jack decided to take a shortcut on his way home. It was a familiar path that cut through an old, abandoned field, now overgrown with tall, withered grass that swayed gently in the breeze. The fading light of the sun cast long shadows across the landscape, and Jack felt a sense of peace as he walked, enjoying the quiet of the evening. But his tranquility was soon interrupted by a sound that made him stop in his tracks, a faint, plaintive howl. At first, Jack thought he might have imagined it. He stood still, listening carefully, but then he heard it again, this time clearer and more desperate. It was a sound that pierced the stillness of the evening, a cry for help that sent a chill down his spine. Frowning, Jack scanned the area, but the tall grass obscured his view. The sound seemed to be coming from his right, so he cautiously made his way toward it, parting the dry stalks as he went. What he found made his heart sink. There, in the middle of a patch of muddy swamp, was a small dog floundering helplessly in the muck. The poor animal had clearly fallen into the swamp and was now trapped, its tiny legs sinking deeper with every frantic attempt to escape. The dog's fur was matted with mud, and its eyes were wide with fear, silently pleading for help. Jack knelt down, trying to think of how he could safely rescue the dog. The ground around the swamp was treacherous, and one wrong step could send him into the same perilous situation. He knew he had to act quickly, but he also needed to be cautious. His mind raced as he considered his options. And then he noticed an old wooden plank lying nearby, half buried in the grass. Grabbing the plank, Jack carefully laid it across the swampy area, hoping it would provide him with a makeshift bridge. The wood creaked under his weight as he took his first tentative step, but it held. Slowly, he made his way toward the terrified dog, each step sinking slightly into the mud but holding firm enough for him to continue. The dog's eyes never left Jack's, its body trembling with fear and exhaustion. When Jack was close enough, he crouched down and extended his hand. "Come on, buddy, I've got you," he whispered, trying to sound reassuring. The dog, too tired to resist, whimpered softly and reached out with a trembling paw. Gently, Jack grasped the dog by its muddy fur and began to pull, using all his strength to free the small creature from the swamp's deadly grip. It wasn't easy. The mud clung to the dog's body, almost as if it were trying to drag it back into the mire. But Jack didn't give up. He pulled harder, feeling the strain in his arms and legs as he fought against the suction of the swamp. Finally, with one last mighty tug, the dog was free, collapsing into Jack's arms with a soft whine of relief. Jack sat back on the plank, cradling the exhausted dog against his chest. The poor thing was covered in mud from head to tail, its fur matted and slick with grime. It was shaking uncontrollably, its small body trembling with exhaustion and fear. Jack could feel the dog's rapid heartbeat against his chest as he wiped the mud from its face and gently wrapped it in his jacket. "You're all right now," Jack murmured as he held the dog close. "I've got you." With the dog safe in his arms, Jack carefully made his way back across the plank to solid ground. Once there, he took a moment to assess the animal. It was a well-cared-for dog. Its fur, though now filthy, was soft and smooth beneath the mud, and its color suggested it wasn't a stray. This was someone's pet, and it had likely been missing for some time. Jack couldn't imagine the fear the owners must be feeling, not knowing what had happened to their beloved dog. Wrapping the dog more securely in his jacket, Jack began to walk toward the nearest village road, hoping he might come across someone searching for the lost animal. As he approached the main road, he heard frantic voices calling out in the distance. Quickening his pace, Jack soon saw a man and a woman up ahead, their faces filled with desperation as they searched the area. When they spotted Jack carrying the dog, the woman let out a cry of relief and ran toward him. "Bella," she exclaimed, reaching out for the dog with tears streaming down her face. "Oh, thank God! We've been looking for her all day." Jack handed the trembling dog over to the woman, who hugged Bella tightly, burying her face in the dog's fur despite the mud. Her husband, a rugged man with weathered features, stood beside her, his eyes filled with gratitude as he looked at Jack. "Thank you," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. "We thought we'd lost her for good. How can we ever repay you for saving her?" Jack waved away their thanks with a shy smile. "No need to repay me," he replied simply. "I'm just glad she's safe." The man nodded, understanding the sentiment. "Still, we're forever in your debt. You've done more for us than you can imagine." As the woman cradled Bella in her arms, the dog's tail began to wag weakly, a sign that she was slowly starting to recover from her ordeal. Jack watched as the couple walked back to their car, their relief palpable as they talked softly to their beloved pet. With a sense of quiet satisfaction, Jack turned and headed back toward his own home. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the fields and hills in a soft golden light, and Jack hummed an old folk tune as he walked. His heart was lighter now, filled with the joy that came from knowing he had made a difference, however small. As he made his way along the familiar path, Jack thought about how moments like these, small acts of kindness, had the power to change lives. It didn't take much to help someone in need, whether they were human or animal. And while Jack had faced a dangerous situation in rescuing the dog, he knew it had been worth the risk. The following morning, as Jack worked in his fields, he noticed the same couple driving by the farm. They waved at him, Bella's head poking out of the car window, her tail wagging happily. Jack waved back, a smile tugging at his lips. Bella was home, safe and sound, and that was all that mattered. Over the days that followed, Jack continued to think about Bella's rescue and how the small village had always been a place where people looked out for one another. It wasn't just about helping animals. It was about community, about the bonds that connected them all, people, pets, and nature alike. In the end, Jack realized that it was these small but significant moments that made life in the village so special. Acts of kindness, whether rescuing a dog from a swamp or lending a neighbor a helping hand, created a ripple effect, spreading goodwill and making the world just a little bit better. And as long as there were people like Jack and places like Red Hill, there would always be hope, no matter how deep the mud might be. And so, the story of Jack and Bella became a quiet legend in the village, a reminder that no matter the danger, compassion and kindness were always worth the risk.